mentioned that about a cat trust with him. Now this should be perfect for bringing up important topics, either to support the forums that we already have, or do a deeper dive for new content. I guess. Well, we had an initial chat with Kathy Call.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
Yeah, so they'll be happy to help.
Good. Good.
Get things together. Glad you're here.
Susan.
How are you? Nice to see you. I know who I am.
Yeah, of course. I left my home, of course.
You look tan. You've been somewhere
I've
nice.
been playing football every Saturday, 2 games for the last month, so I get
Which is for you?
Hey, how are you? Nice to see you.
Good to see you, Adrian.
Great. I didn't put my name tag on.
Morning. How you doing? Good, thanks. How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Good morning, good morning. Right, I thought I'd be late. That's so stressed. Hello.
Welcome to Loop Up. Enter an access code, then press pound. One moment, please.
Morning. Someone on the phone?
Hi, good morning. This is Jayati Vaidya from Deloitte.
Hello, JT. It's Sarah from MassBio. We're just gathering now, so stand by.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Hello.
Hello?
Hi, this is Bhavi Mittal from Millennium.
Hello, it's Sarah from MassBio. We're just gathering, so it'll be just a few minutes.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
What's been going on? How much?
How are you?
Get those balloons out of your office finally? Are they
They're still
lurking?
alive, yeah. A few of them are really shriveled down to like hair size.
I'm happy to put more of them here,
I left
but I never got the flyer.
No, that's fine.
It was easy. I thought I'd be late for
That's fine. I did call for an idea.
Oh, okay.
Oh, good. You know, and everything, so,
Oh my gosh. It was like
I'll lead our sponsorship, marketing, and visibility kind of stuff, and I think John Halligan's gonna.
Oh, that's how I thought. Oh, shoot.
One of the analysts.
At,
Not sure yet.
what do you call it, four, what do you call it,
So from a program side, it's probably him.
usually at a restaurant.
And how about just like that day,
Bacon's like a
like,
bakery
is there,
restaurant.
like, is there anyone from the staff who's gonna be?
Area 4.
We haven't
Oh,
actually
yeah,
talked
yeah, yeah.
about, and I mean, I know it's on John's calendar, it's on Martina's calendar, it's on my calendar, so. Between us, we have a table, you know, we'll stack a table with somebody.
No, it's been crazy.
That's all the way in
Nuts.
June.
With,
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy right now between, I just And in between that, I'm going to Guatemala for 10 days, so we're out for 9 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great. It's crazy. Pardon me?
When you leave.
May 20th.
Thanks.
Pleasure or work?
I think it's going to work. I mean, it's not work. It's part of a organization that does not-for-profit work for families that are the poorest community in Guatemala to give them education, healthcare, and housing. Because they had such an awful civil war that happened there. That wiped out so many of this particular culture. I mean, there's so much more work. So it's something that we don't want to do. So we're there to work on that for 8 days. 4 weeks. Can't believe it's here.
I know, I was so happy when I saw the calendar saying that.
Scary.
And then I heard there was some storm in Colorado that closed the airport, or
Is that true?
like flights. Yeah, yesterday.
Snow?
Yeah, snow.
Oh my gosh.
That's all right, they're out there skiing. They love it.
Yeah.
They can have it.
Yeah. Better than this.
Sorry, what is your name?
Haywa.
Is that H-A?
Hewa.
And what company are you with?
Salmenta. ALY. How about you?
I'm Denise and I'm from Safety Partners.
Okay.
Driving into that parking lot, if you don't know where you're going, it's like, that's funny.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is about that, because I forgot.
It's that intersection. It's just
I hadn't been there in so
Or
long.
Route 2, right by the T station.
Yeah, it's bad.
It's crazy. There's a cop helping you get out.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes.
Because people don't, even if they're dead stopped, they won't let you get out of the parking lot. It's like, you're stopped anyway. I could just go on my way.
Yeah, but no way.
No. And I see people sometimes they'll just like look at me and pull forward, and I'm like, now we're both. I'm not even turning in front of you. I'm going left.
Is John
He left last August. Starting the other day, he is in the final stages of an offer somewhere.
Sarah.
Yeah, been consulting.
Oh, great. Yeah, so you should probably.
A bunch of places. Sheer.
Familiar name.
Yeah.
walks away. And he has a dog that looks just like mine, so I met his wife in the woods, like trying to figure out which dog is that one mine, or is that one yours? Funny.
That's awesome.
No, it's a mutt that like all decided that it breeds. Never breeding ever. They all look like that. No.
Hello?
We're just getting started in just a few minutes here. People are still trickling in, so if you just hold tight for a few more.
Okay. I just want to make sure, like.
Like, it's necessary. So is that, you know. Talk again.
We have here. Good morning. Can everybody hear me on this mic? Who's on the line?
Hi, Susan. This is Angelos Katlevoglu.
Oh, Angelos. Hi, how are you? And who else? Jackie, are you on the phone? Oh, good morning.
No. Morning, Chris, how are you?
This is where I met. It's where I like to sit. Don't ask me why, but this is where.
Now you just gravitate every time.
I'm an interloper.
On the other side of the room. No, my territory.
Okay, good morning. Let's all try and get started. Welcome. Does everybody want to just go around the room and introduce themselves quickly to the ones that are on our phone, and we'll tell who's here? Let's start.
Sarah McDonald from Mass Bio.
Eric Reichley from Allen Island. John Balls from Converstan.
And just tell you're also the working group that you're with as well.
I'm with the HR working group.
I'm with data management, biostats, and clinical.
Alex Niboroshkin, and technology, formulation, and drug delivery.
John Rye, Tetragenetics, with the business development and finance working group.
Vlad Bozic with Shark Genetic Therapies, regulatory and legal.
Mark Cody with Excellium Partners, the Entrepreneur University working group.
Steve Riesinger, MedChem Partners, and Discovery.
Form advisor.
One small, Solventa HR group.
Patrick Marshall, Stratacuity, and HR group.
George Hillman, Farmer, Business Development.
Denise Aronson, Safety Partners with the SEF group.
David Sparkin, I'm R&D Consulting with the Forum Advisory Board.
Bob Bondurek, Carapass, Forum Advisory Board, Drug Discovery Group. Chris Kennedy, SCM Advisors, Forum Advisory Board.
And Kendall O'Connell, Mass Bio.
And Susan Silverman, Mass Bio. So today's meeting, we are well on our way to planning. Oh yeah, I'm so sorry. Who's online, please?
Angela Sovlero, Epizyme with the Formulations Working Group.
And Jackie, are you online? Anybody
Yes,
else?
I'm online, but I can barely hear you.
Can you hear me better now?
Yes, much better.
Okay.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Jackie, you are with Legal and Regulatory. Who else is online?
Good morning, Susan. This is Bhavi Mittal from Millennium Pharmaceuticals. I'm in the CRO CMO committee.
Great. Welcome, everybody. Let's start with our agenda. So I'd like to give you a program overview, and then we're going to start filling in the blanks with Q3 and Q4 programming. We'll separate into working groups, all the working group co-chairs and the FAB liaisons who are here to brainstorm on new topics for forums and topics to support the series that is already in process. And then everybody briefly present your ideas so that we can just all get an idea of what we're thinking, avoid redundancy, and perhaps even encourage collaboration among groups. And then we'll have action items and adjournment. Let's see. Adventures in Bioteching. Here's what it looks like so far. We just have a new, pass these down. We have a wonderful new logo. And we're marketing the series. Adventures in Bioteching, stories of successes and failures. 6-part series of programs on the new frontier of drug discovery and development in a time of changing business models, limited resources, and regulatory uncertainty. So far, this is what we have in the schedule. So you can see that in June, we already have 2 that are in process. For September, we also have 2 that are already on the books and scheduled. And October as well, we have 2. These are the broader-based forums. So,
can I just add, so folks know, this is obviously the result of past conversations where we came up with the 6 ideas. Hopefully everybody's okay with the branding. We're working with the various working groups to come up with the session-specific language and the speakers nailed down. We officially started marketing this series yesterday. We sent to our biggest email list an email of our upcoming events with this at the top of it, this 6-part series. We've also finalized partnerships with outside organizations to market the events. So far, Mass Life Science Center, Mass Tech Transfer Center, and HBA, Healthcare Business Women's Association, have agreed to reach out to their respective constituencies. As we talked about, these events in particular will be open to non-members, so we can spread it far and wide without worrying about people being in or out. So if folks have other suggestions about groups or organizations or ways for us to get the word out on this, we're in the process of doing that.
Yeah, Mark is tearing down the furniture.
It's locked now.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. But if folks have ideas, please pass them along, because we're starting to develop email materials, social media materials, and obviously the print brochure for folks to distribute.
I mean, one thing that we've talked about before, the major pharma companies in town here, very few people have there's always been very few people from them showing up. And when you talk to the pharma or the people working in pharma, they don't even know of these events. So, I mean, but of course I don't know, that identifies who to reach out to in terms of company, but not the person. I don't know how we're going to get the information to filter down to the scientists or whoever want to go to these meetings, right? Sure. Because they're all members, but no one, well, almost no one shows up to any events.
So what we can suggest and what we're working on is something we can distribute to all of you to also get to your networks. Something that can easily be forwarded and doesn't mess up links and graphics and things like that. So we should probably in the next couple of days, hopefully by early next week, have something to send to all of you to continue to send out to people. What we'll include in that, and what we try to encourage people to do, is there's sort of a button that allows them to sign up for our email list. We want to drive people to do that so we can be in regular contact with them. And it goes directly to our email marketing service, and it's easy for them to pick what topics they're interested in, and then they're sort of officially on the list. So anything you forward, if you could encourage people, if they'd like to be in communication with us moving forward, and it can be members and non-members, that they just need to click through and sign up for email subscriptions.
The tech transfer offices at the universities, all of this is about starting companies. And they desperately need, at least their faculty, they desperately need to understand how that's done.
Yeah, so we talked to them.
We talked
to the Mass Tech Transfer Center yesterday, which represents a number of the tech transfer offices, or has a constituency in the tech transfer offices, about getting it out to their folks. We will next work on getting directly in touch with those tech transfer offices, but it never hurts to have multiple ways to circle back with people.
And on that note, I just wanted to add what are possibilities reaching out to our universities, because I personally, on my meetings, on our meetings, I want to see younger guys, because these younger guys become aware, et cetera, et cetera. So we start reaching to these people, and it's always nice to have younger guys. And if there's any chance, go directly, I know, to MIT, Harvard, BU, et cetera, et cetera. I think we have a tremendous mix of, experienced guys, younger guys, and this continuity of younger guys going to whatever job or, places, and then just being part of the community, but early on. I think that would be my suggestion, if we can reach out closer to the university and get this information to grad student, postdocs, and just people in the field.
And most of our academic members do have postdoc networks, all kinds of internal networks that might be really useful to tap into. But point well taken, and they are all members.
Yeah, but I think the problem is just you know, you go to this or boards of the department, it's full of all kind of information. Unless we'll find like a smarter way to present the event and make people aware, it just, a lot of things will just not be taken into account.
So all of these are open to non-members?
For a small registration fee, $25 per workshop.
You've not done that before? Typically it's
On a
for
very limited basis, where the topic is sort of
broad.
leads itself to a bigger constituency. We did it with an incubator panel recently, understanding that some of the folks who work in economic development or consulting around incubators aren't necessarily members.
And did you get non-members, new faces?
We did, and we're looking at, you know, why they came. Are they? Is it potential membership? You know, sort of how that shakes out for us. What we've talked about with, I think it was the last meeting of this group, was this series being, all 6 being open to non-members. The additional deeper dive programming that we're going to talk about next, asking all of you to help us, being a members only benefit, and getting a little bit deeper, a little more specific, and really make that a benefit of membership.
Great.
So, and any suggestions? I mean, we're really looking at this as an opportunity to try all sorts of new things. If you want us to give you hard copy flyers, if you have places to put them, if you want us to send you tweets or LinkedIn messages, I mean, we're getting pretty good at speaking in 140 characters. Anything you want, we're welcome to help provide it.
So another idea to help get this out to the universities is through like whoever your contact might be at like the Sloan School of Management or other like specific areas of universities. So I don't know which schools have like programs, very specific programs for being an entrepreneur. M2D2, like, you know, so UMass Lowell seems to go through M2D2 to capture those kind of folks. And maybe every university sort of has their incubator or entrepreneur kind of group that we would want to be able to touch.
Yeah, like we've been meeting with Harvard's iLab folks, the Innovation Lab folks, so directly to them.
Yeah, that's another good one.
The thought that I had was that using LinkedIn has really probably become incredibly prevalent in being able to reach out to a lot of people really inexpensively, really quickly.
That might be a good avenue to explore. Yeah.
One thing that I think might help is when we create an agenda, what we deliver to the public, to the audience, we have to be cognizant of the 2 facts. One is that people come here to network, but second one, that people who are on a higher level of management come for specifically tightly managed topics. So when topics are being developed, you don't want to put out something that's too general because it's not going to attract people. You know, this is the level where when we started brainstorming about proposed topics, they need to be tightly niche topics that have relevance for people to be attracted based on content. And that's going to be a big task.
Well, and in fact, that is the task of today's meeting. That's the goal of our meeting now, is to, excuse me, come up with deeper dives into your specific area of interest. Speak to those people.
I have one suggestion on the flyer to make it as simple as possible. I should say in terms of generating interest. I don't think we need any text underneath. This just makes it very complex, and it also looks very disorganized with 1 line, 12 lines, no lines. Do just a title for this flyer, and then as each program develops, do a specific with an abstract for that program. Because that's definitely, as a number of people have told me here, one of the issues that we get so much information, emails.
Yeah.
Not that I use Twitter, but I'm sure people who tweet get lots of tweets.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just drown in it. And the more text there is, the less likely I am at least to read it at all. It's like, okay, that's another. Has to be, if you can't capture it in 1 line, I don't think it's going to work. So
I think that's a great point. And actually, I will, I'll just sort of continue to seek your guidance too, to make sure that the titles we're choosing, it's sort of a crowdsourced effort, right? There's a big group working on these. Sometimes the title's obvious, it comes to us, it makes sense, it's catchy. Sometimes we struggle a lot more with it, so if at any point you see something that isn't resonating, or you feel like, wait, I've seen that program 10 times, definitely give us that feedback, because I agree that we've tried to say the title is probably the most important thing about your panel. Second would be the speakers. But we want to make sure that those few, 5 or 6 words we're using at the top are what's important.
Another thing that just when we are still here on this topic, in the opening line you have stories of success, and then you talk about drug discovery and development. But then when you go down to the names of specific panels, it's all how to create a company, how to invest, there's no drug discovery topic here. So my panel with Konstantin and Rigor and Regulatory, which is a part of drug development, we were struggling to find where to put it. Like you have nightmares, you have payers, you have science tactics, you have strategy models for company growth. This is all business development. So there should be a panel that talks about research and development and drug discovery, and then you can do the subtopics, because I actually gave this to my organization. They were like, well, where are you going to speak? This is business development stuff.
Well, these are the 6 that the group collectively came up with.
Well, it can be, because I know I was here with my boss. We had very, very strong presence on the board with rare diseases, with specific legal and regulatory frameworks for drug development, and I don't see it on here.
So then that's a topic for another forum, right? So that, I think you make a very good point. I mean, it has to be added to this.
If you're marketing material and you're expecting the topics to be not related to that, it's a failure already.
Yeah, it's a very good point. And then I think we have the idea for the 7th forum of the year to make sure that
and we would say beyond these 6, which was what we talked about doing as a series throughout the course of the year, we are expecting others, July, August, in between in June, and we'll give some examples. I think Entrepreneurs University and someone is working on a June topic, legal regulatory on IP.
I think what we talked about last at the Forum Advisory was for each of the working groups to come up with 3 forums in between.
Right, and some of them we'll give kind of an overview, and that's what we're still driving for.
Right. And there I think, at least what we talked about in the drug discovery working group is depending on what topics that comes up that can overlap with other working groups so that you get joined. And I think for that to happen, it's very important that we divvy that out so that each working group knows that they're going to do 3. It's not an option. They have to come up with 3. And then you spread it out over the year. Because if it's an option, you're going to get a 10% success rate for those meetings.
So, that's sort of what the agenda is today. Good segue.
Good segue. Yeah, we're talking about filling in the blanks right now. Again, you all have the opportunity to create more value and dive deeper into your topics by creating forums that either support one of the themes in the 6 forum series, or develop some new content for an independent forum, R&D issues, or whatever you come up with. Again, working together as a working group with your forum advisory board liaison to keep the overview in mind. And we're open. July and August, we have very little scheduled. November and December are open, and there's plenty of space for June, September, and October forums as well. So next steps. And creative best practices. You can choose to meet in person to develop your ideas. You can choose to schedule regular planning calls, or collaborate with other work groups as you see as what works for you. Maud, can you just talk briefly about how LNR has gotten together and begun to work through this process?
Yeah, sure. We basically decided on a date when we were going to meet in person, and fortunately enough, we have 4 people on the panel that really get along and have good syncing personalities and good matching backgrounds. We have 2 skilled attorneys, and then myself from the regulatory perspective, and we have a consultant from Deloitte & Touche. We basically put down on a piece of paper what do we want to deliver, what is our interest, and how are we going to get people into the room when we create a topic. And then we agreed on topics that we think are pertinent in the industry and decided to move it forward. But meeting in person and making sure that you have a goal in mind for audience was the key for us.
Yes, and then you went forward and, you know, 2 people are point people on the one, another person is a point person on the other, and so on and so forth.
Attorneys will drive a topic, you know, how does legal department and how does legal representation get involved in the drug development, mergers and acquisitions, due diligence projects, at what time, what periods of time, and then I'll be working on specifics on challenges in development of drugs in rare diseases.
Mm-hmm.
Which, you know, all of those are pretty emerging for this area because there is so many bad things that are coming up here and don't know where to start.
And again, this is the work of the co-chairs, the working groups. Your forum advisory board liaisons are always available for guidance, and for help with this, with speakers or whatever. And then,
don't forget, all of you guys are here who are pretty much experts in your area. So you drive the topics that you think you want to hear more about.
Yeah.
You know, when I choose my conference of interest to attend, yes, partially is networking, but I'm not going to attend a session that's going to give me something I can get online in 2 minutes, right? So I want content.
Yeah, yeah. Nils and Bob have been doing this a long time. Have some suggestions for people to get started and how to work their process. You made some calls.
I mean, I think, at least to me, and of course, I think we're both see it the same way, but you can add whatever. Your thoughts, I shouldn't speak for you, I should say. But one of the issues that one of the potential issues that I see here with what we're doing right now, which is still a bit nebulous in terms of how to move this forward, is that like you mentioned, Mark, that you had 9 person on a call here, right? Then if there are 9 people, 8 of them will think that the 9th is going to do it, and that 9th hasn't been appointed. So for this to be put into practice, I think there has to be one person that's responsible for each meeting, that like we talked about with the drug discovery working group here, right? That you say that we're aiming for a meeting in June, set the date in June, one person finds a company that can talk around whatever topic that they think is interesting. They can then reach out to the others in that working group or to other working groups and suggest additional companies or content to that meeting. And I think, to me, for this to work, it's going to be very important that there is one person responsible for each event, and that either that we divvy out dates now, which I would prefer, actually, that we say that we have these dates where we're aiming for these meetings, and then because then that one person knows when it has to be done. It's not next week. There's always the next week after next week. So if we can set the date, have one person being responsible for each meeting, and of course not all meetings will happen, and some of them at the end of the day will be, as I mentioned, joint. It could be that at the end of it there are 3 working groups into that. But if we say that 3 working groups are going to do this, it's going to be too many chefs in the kitchen. One person responsible, and for me the simplest way to do it is for each working group to, which is sort of how we've been doing this. I've been doing it for 8 years. You've been doing it for 80 years. As I said, for one person to take the lead for each meeting, and then ask the others for help as needed.
Yeah. So basically, for each forum you wish to present, point person, and then ask for help from the rest of the group. Always stay in contact with your co-chairs and your FAB liaisons, and then once an idea is developed, get in touch with us, with me, and then we start putting these things on the calendar.
And the idea is to really spread the pain and the responsibility and everything, and really a person really only has to consolidate around a single event and a single date, and that's not too much heavy lifting.
Right.
It looks a little bit more. It looks like a larger task if you're responsible for the entire series or whatever. So by minimizing and focusing for any one particular individual's responsibility, we found that's very successful. So if I know that I have to generate and get consensus around a topic, and then get a date, let's say, as Neil says, let's get it maybe on the calendar sooner rather than later, but it's June 20th, I can focus on that. I know what I need to get done. I can plan my schedule, I can focus on it, and then you reach out to all other resources, to other people that you know. But the fact of the matter is, having one thing to do is a lot easier looking at this entire schedule and thinking that you're going to participate in all of it. None of us can. We don't have enough time. So the point of having focus, I think, is the thing that helps stuff get done.
Right, and as working groups, you will have your narrower focus now and a much smaller group to work with. The good news is you have a huge network of experts to tap into for guidance, advice, suggestions for speakers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So
And the only piece I would add is that the reason we've gone through this process the past several months is because in some ways we want to force collaboration. We do not want to go back to the model where we have 10 working groups planning 10 meetings separately without context to why we're doing a program or what over the course of a year we're trying to bring across. So we would just ask that as you sort of, we know this is not, it can't be prescriptive, we can't tell you how to do it. I think some groups are feeling certain ways work better than others. We understand that. We will just ask you to keep in mind that if we really want to move the needle on high quality programming with the audience we're trying to attract, a broad audience, good discussion and quality of these programs, we do want to keep mindful of collaboration, being aware of what each other are doing, and that's, we're working on sort of how to keep everyone in the loop, how to make sure that, you know, for example, EU talked about the importance of IP in starting new companies, so making sure they're in touch with legal and regulatory around, all right, here's what IP programs we've done, here's what might be possible, those kind of things, because we know that thinking that way will drive more participation.
And, you know, an ancillary purpose of this meeting, of course, is to share your ideas and eliminate redundancy. Because when we had siloed groups, 1 week someone would present something that is very similar to another group's presentation next week. We want variety and collaboration. So let's.
Susan, we're in the legal regulatory, we've decided on 4 topics that we're going to pursue. Are you going to show them to everyone?
You know, I don't have a slide for that, but you know, if you would describe them, that would be great.
Okay, so the legal and regulatory group is planning to put together 4 events this year or maybe going on to the next year. The first topic that we want to cover, and Mladen will be organizing that event, navigating regulatory landscape and frameworks in various jurisdictions, including reimbursement. And that would be a broad topic for drug development in general, with the first event being focused on rare diseases, and drugs for rare diseases. Possibly it will be more than 1 event spread out. We're not quite sure yet. So if you have anything around that topic, please contact Mladen on that. The second topic that we're going to pursue is overview of legal issues involved in the biopharma enterprise, very generally, because we thought that there's nothing short and comprehensive on this subject, with the sort of subtitle, when should lawyers be involved? And there are 2 lawyers on the L&R committee, myself, Konstantin Linek, and we have David Hoffman, another lawyer. So if you have any suggestions about that topic, please contact us. The third topic that we're going to cover, hopefully in November, December, is going to be regulatory, legal, and IP issues around biomarkers, companion diagnostics, and those will be, we're not quite sure what exactly that event will look like, but we'll focus on international differences, how approvals or IP issues work in various countries, compare and contrast. The JAT is one of the, if I pronounced the name correctly, who's the consultant from Deloitte, will be leading that event in our group. And finally, the most remote subject that we're going to cover is compliance in legal as well as operational sense. And that is, hot topics such as off-label promotion, how to market your drug, issues around, how to deal with Department of Justice. We will probably set that event sometime next year. But those are the 4 topics that we chose topics that we felt we're passionate about the topics. We have something to contribute, we know how to put together a quality program, and the goal was to reach a broad audience. So we didn't want to focus just on startups and early enterprise. We want to be relevant to the entire industry.
And I can add that we've actually, MassBio has been talking with MassMedic, the Medical Device Association, about doing a joint program October, November on companion diagnostics. So let's make sure that because that could be an interesting sort of pair of events.
And again, this point, just one point, this points up the importance of meeting in person and brainstorming. Our facilities are available at any time for you to come in and meet here. We have AV, we have whatever you need for your presentations, and we can be there with additional information and ideas. So we've already got 3 on the calendar now, as far as I know. Constantine.
I have addition. That's something that I was thinking last year for legal committee to consider, because the issue of IP protection and formulation drug delivery is very, very important and current, because people try to maximize their return on what they do, like life cycle of that product. So a lot of people now try to repurpose the older drug, and one of the major instruments on that is just doing that by formulation or reformulation. And I know a lot of people dealing with that. I'm personally dealing with that because we're trying to tackle, what can be done in IP, and I see how complex is the area. So I think that kind of a topic I would just propose that we can brainstorm. But I'm sure that will be interesting to a lot of people, and there's a lot of things that have to be discussed, because it's very unclear what needs to be done. So I think that's where we can join forces, and maybe drug discovery folks. I think that would be like a tremendous discussion, really, at the interface of IP, chemistry, formulation, drug delivery, everything together. So I don't know if it's maybe this year or next year.
I forgot to mention, we decided to meet on last Friday of every month, so we can have a joint session with drug development groups.
I'm going to put together a calendar with when meetings are, when phone calls are, when forums are. So, if you want to collaborate, get in touch with, whoever's meeting. Nelson.
I was going to say, all of those 4 topics are not just interesting from a legal and regulatory perspective. Anybody doing drug discovery should be interested in that. So I think the fact that if you will, collaborating as a group here is going to solve quite a bit of the issues that we've seen over the years, right? Now we know about these topics coming up. So 2 things. That means that we, from a drug discovery perspective, don't need to set up something similar, and also we can go to the meetings. So, I think the fact that as you say, the silos that has been there before, I don't think that's been driven by sort of one person arranging the meetings, or a few people arranging meetings. More driven by the fact that each have worked in isolation. We haven't had meetings like this where we actually go through the topics.
Yeah. Well, these are like your drug discovery planning meetings that you would have regularly, and topics would get thrown out, speakers, and then, okay, we'll take this one, we'll take that one, and you lay out your schedule.
Even marketing and communications could collaborate with you on the last one. It sounds like that's a ways off, but certainly overlapping issues there.
Yeah.
The HR group has had conversations too.
Yes.
Do you want to share some of those topics, or just to, again, we're going to kind of suggest that we break up and start talking around some of these things. So if you guys have stuff that you're thinking.
And we had a long list of things. I think maybe after we kind of connect today. I know you
guys had.
Just for the HR folks, I know. Yeah, I'm part of the Entrepreneurial University group, and I know we had talked, I think, at the last meeting about something around even equity compensation strategies for either emerging biotechs or pharma, what a CEO or what kind of executives need to be thinking about. So maybe that's something that we can collaborate on at some point.
Yeah.
Perfect. So, again, if you want to schedule meetings here, anybody who wants to collaborate, get in touch, get involved. This would be a great way to structure the whole process. All right. Let's see. All right. So let's separate into working groups. I know some of you, there are a few of you here, separate into working groups and start thinking about, again, topics where you'd like to go with this, meet with your liaisons if they're here. And how long do we want to take? About 20 minutes? 20 minutes or so, and just start banging out ideas for forums and possible speakers and who we're trying to reach out to.
So with forums, you don't necessarily mean to add to this list, you mean to fill in the gaps, is that correct?
Well, to fill in the gaps, they supplement what we already have on the calendar, or independent topics, R&D, whatever you feel is a hot topic, come up with now. What we'd asked you to do before, what would you come up with before, was, a number of times. Well, no, this was great. This was that reception, lubricated by beer and wine, which was, I think, helped with the process, where you all came up with these wonderful hot topics. Use them as a guide for your discussions today, but certainly not limited to these. And again,
when you break up into groups, you're looking to be in contact with another group and you can't remember who, just ask one of us and we can put you in touch. I can't remember sometimes, so.
I can print out.
Sorry, Susan, I don't, did you give the example, sorry, I ran out to the bathroom, around the the CFO 2.0 concept that the BD Finance Group is working with?
Why don't you talk about that? No, I have it.
As you think about it, just to give a little snapshot into what the BD Finance.
This is scheduled May 9th.
This is already scheduled, and it's a great concept. What we're thinking about, and so the notion here is a standing meeting every year around the topic of CFOs, right? It's each year, it's a standing meeting that, in our case, is going to evolve and revolve around the Big Four accounting firms. So each year, someone from that group will be involved in topics related to CFOs. So it's that concept of there's some continuity from a forum perspective that you have in one of your topics that is there on the calendar. Date may be determined, but the topic itself doesn't really ever vacillate, but you can sort of come at it from different angles for each year's
BD and Finance in November does the accounting update, which we just know every year.
It's germane to that subsection of the MassBio membership. So just something to be thinking about in your own forums of a way to sort of structure something that's a little bit more long-standing and annual.
Yeah. I mean, outside of these, right? If the working groups are creating, as you said, because John and I created this CFO.
Why reinvent something?
First CFO, then now it's CFO 2.0. It's another version. There is a lot of value in that continuity and consistency for the members and potential outside guests to know that it comes up, they can plan on it. That consistency, and then it makes it easier. To focus on better speakers and better content, without recreating new forums. I mean, because there are certain ones that really, if they work, why not continue to build on them?
Yeah, you've already created the buzz, and likewise, the patient advocacy panel was a tremendous success. There's another idea that we might carry forward. So there's a lot of fodder for thought here.
One of the groups, I can't even remember which one, had talked at one point about doing, it might have been Marcom with drug discovery, or it was a combo of, a lot of these big scientific conferences happen elsewhere. Is there value in having a debrief after like an ASCO? A session on, all right, so what happened there? What were the highlights? What were the topics? And it's, we just did one about bio, after bio, a little debrief that MassBio hosted, because we all are going to these things, or we're not, but we're looking for what happened there and how do we bring value. So, and that could happen every year, the week after ASCO or the week after any of the big meetings that are happening. So things like that. I mean, we would rather have more ideas planned further out, because that gives us tons of opportunity and flexibility.
Tons of opportunity, and also it's so much easier to enlist and get speakers confirmed the more notice you can give them.
And I would also suggest, as you're working on these forums or working on anything, it is like when John Halen and I originally created the Pharma Days. I think the key to the success of the original Pharma Days is that we had like 5 of them. He and I were going back and forth on the phone almost every day. Just we were organizing like 5 at once. So I would just say that if you come up with ideas, I don't think it's a bad idea at all to be kind of planning them, concurrently and, setting dates out there, the more organized, I don't think, if you're going to work on one forum, don't wait until that one's done before you start the next one. If there's a chance you can create, that's why it goes back to having regular ones every year, then you can kind of set these, because it's tough to get good speakers scheduled and, coordinating all that. So I think working on multiple forums at once is not a bad idea. If you can work, not.
And those were some of the best forums. As a participant, early Mass Bio member, first year here in Massachusetts, those were some of the best events that I participated in. So those were
And they came
phenomenal.
out and we were able to have them, but it was not easy. We were talking like 5 or 6 or 10 or 12 different, pharma companies at once organizing them. So it's just, I just highlight that this stuff isn't easy. To put together a quality event, you really do need to plan ahead as much as possible. And so therefore, I think it's inevitable that planning more than one at the same time is a good idea.
And then keeping us in the loop, me in the loop, so that this calendar fills up so quickly. Get me your ideas as soon as they're gelled, and then dates.
Dates here, so you're not conflicting with outside events.
Right.
A big event like JP Morgan, who knows what else.
Yeah, you all will know whatever special events are going on in your particular field.
Mass Bio can help,
Yeah.
cross-reference.
Yeah, absolutely. Denise?
Yes, I have 2 things. For a topic that I'm in the safety, environment, and facilities group, so this topic doesn't fit exactly in my subgroup, but I'm interested in it, and I would work with another working group if you guys think the topic's interesting. And that is to have a forum on industrial psychology, organizational development. I don't know, from my mind, everything's about people. Yes, we gotta make drugs, make our manufacturing good, and do all those great things in the laboratory and have everything come out perfect. But it's all about the people. And I would love to see one or more of the working groups really take the topic and bring in some motivational speakers and talk about what it means to build a company about the people and how to develop those people. So that's one thing. Slightly related, in the safety, environment, and facilities working group, and I can't take the credit for this, I ran into Dick Eichelman, who's my co-chair, at another thing, and it was his topic. And that would be, where can our SEF group fit with one of you guys? And our piece would be about the money companies save when they actually have a good safety program. So from the aspect of employee turnover, health and wellness, not getting those fines, or even if not fines, but the time and energy it takes when you have a bad inspection, to just talk about what the value is from we can bring in some statistics and think about the impact to the organization. So in some ways, I don't think the SEF should do that alone as a separate forum. I'd actually rather do it with another group where the topic fits. So I don't need an answer to either of those today. I just wanted to bring it up so that if it resonates with anyone, to reach out to me and we could start working on it.
I have a quick question. The goal, I guess, in all this is to increase attendance at these. Has Mass Bio done any kind of polling or anything to find out why people do or do not come?
Many, many times.
And what's
we don't have the slides with us. We've shared them a couple of times prior. It's a number of things. I mean, the first thing we addressed was around some logistics. I mean, we have found and have shared with you that 8 to 10 a.m. is generally the preferred time period for people before they go to work. There are certain groups of people, business development, sometimes lawyers, who want to do afternoon, end of day events. So we basically eliminated lunchtime programs other than training sessions that we host here. So there's some logistical things like that. The other challenges, I think, were around sometimes specificity of content, that it depended on which type of program you were asking about, but some of them got far too narrow to generate broad interest. Sometimes people don't know about them, and we're working on sort of that aspect of things too, better marketing, better visibility. Our task to engage our members stronger. So we can share some of the survey results that we have presented a while back. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head.
And the other question I have is about target audiences, right? Because, I mean, when we're trying to market these, the audience can be vastly different, right? Somebody fresh out of grad school versus a CEO is going to look for something completely different. And if you try to market to all of those people, you're never going to do it. So does it make sense to define target audiences that then we would say, this event is going to target that audience?
We've asked all of you
right?
that one step in your process, which I think you have a slide on the process.
But I mean, would it even make sense to just generate like 3 different groups and say, okay, this is going to target this group, and so then whoever puts it together knows what level they should kind of talk to?
I don't know, what do others, we haven't thought about it like level of organization.
Maybe within working groups, when you're coming up with topics, you could
If
consider.
there
But I think
topics.
continuity across the entire industry would be much better, because then one working group isn't doing something that another group doesn't mesh up with. So if Mass Bio had 3 or 4 levels that they just told everybody, here's what we're doing, choose which ones you think are better, then I think it's better than everybody ad hoc doing it themselves.
Well, that's what this is all about. I mean, ideally, that's where this is going. Having, themes that everyone's in sync with.
Yeah, but great, but they don't talk about the level that you're trying to get people there. Are you talking to people fresh out of grad school? Are you talking to people who are trying to start their own companies? Are you talking to CEOs of large corporations? What people do you want at that event?
And I think from our perspective, that's a little bit event specific. Our members are everyone in every one of our member organizations,
But you
all
can't
levels.
market to that. Just
Well, but we, over the course of a year, over the course of a period, we expect to provide programming to all of those audiences. So I can't say that we need 2 mid-level drug discovery events in a year, but I can say that we are mindful of sort of who we're getting and how. I mean, for 8 to 10 a.m. networking events, we have never thought of that as the vehicle by which we talk to a lot of CEOs. There are some small company CEOs, entrepreneurs, startups, but it's not our primary vehicle to attract CEOs. We have signature events that aimed at higher level folks, but
I would suggest that any thought to that is hugely critical. That how do we get people to show up? I mean, I think assessing whether it's targeting audiences but I would suggest that, like if research and discovery and drug development event. I mean, that's going to whether someone's an academia or a startup or a large pharma, that topic is going to appeal to hopefully all 3 of those. If it's a finance panel, you would hope that you're touching upon someone who's in a lab trying to commercialize something, someone who's in a startup, someone who's in pharma. So I understand what you're saying. I'm just not sure. I mean, obviously you want to finance and BD, you want to get out to the CFOs and the BD people, and but I think that it's going to, isn't it, I'm asking, I guess, isn't it going to hopefully appeal to whether you're in academia trying to commercialize something or you're a startup, we would
I think
hopefully.
how you talk about it makes a big difference, right? Like if you're talking about somebody who wants to start a company who's never done it before, then talking about the difference between angel and VC might be really important. Somebody who's done it 4 times before, he doesn't want to hear that. He knows it already, right?
So I think for each group, I think as you're coming up with topics, then the question would be, what is this audience going to look like? So I think the onus is on us as coming up with the topics to say, okay, what is this audience going to look like? Who am I targeting it to let?
I agree with that. The problem is, I think what I'm afraid of is that it's going to be all one side and we're going to miss out on other stuff. Instead of saying, okay, we've already had 3 things that target people who are new to the thing, we don't need another one of those. We need one for somebody who's mid-career or somebody who's later career, so that there's some continuity process.
One of the important topics that is coming up at the Forum Advisory Board app is very related to this. We're trying to understand the marketing outreach and who's actually being reached now, and how are they being reached. And for the most part, it's postings on the website and email distributions. Who's getting these email distributions, and when and why and how, and what happens to them? Who sees the website? Do we have any data on the website? So those are the kinds of discussions that are going to be coming up probably, I think, in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But importantly, if we're looking to try to do some targeted marketing, what might that look like? Right? And, if somebody's getting an email distribution, they may or may not be interested in it and will blow it off or read it. But is there, it would be very helpful to get some comment from folks that we can bring into deeper discussions with MassBio on, if there's a way to drill down to more specific audiences and what would that look like?
We did talk with at the advisory board, so I think it's a great point. But I would also suggest that it's kind of a challenge. I mean, it's something we should work towards. But I mean, to really to slice and dice the database and say we're just going to go after grad students. Number one, I think it's a challenge. Number two, I don't think potentially I would suggest it's not really the mission, because we really want to be providing forums that are going to appeal to from the the corporate CFO or CEO to the grad student that wants to out-license some
Right, and I'm not suggesting that narrow like a graduate student, but I'm suggesting like the center be pushed one way or the
I think
other.
MassBio, I think you can depend that. I think you should push MassBio, my personal suggestion, to pursue more selective marketing and contacting and targeting of those potential participants. And I think that that's fine, but it's an ongoing challenge. But we talked on the advisory board, just so everyone knows, about how are these things marketed. How do we get numbers? If you're going to spend time working to create for the events, we need to work with them to confident that bio is recognizing how to show up. So I think it's an ongoing challenge. We asked at the advisory board that MassBio sort of work with us and help us understand, not throwing the baby out with the bathwater and also not trying to recreate the wheel. What do you do and what is your agenda? Internally, what policy has been determined by MassBio on this topic? So they may say, listen, that may be a great idea, but we're never going to do that. So it's coordination is what this is all about.
Right.
But it's a good job.
One of the sector that MassBio is not successful is really the academic institute. I have so many people in big industry, big one. So this I got questions. So do you think that I should go to MassBio? I know that our company is a member. Should I go? Many of those. The same in the academic institute. They are part of MassBio, but they don't. Very short because they don't know about it. So I think that's two sectors that we need to work on.
Yeah.
Because it's a huge sector and they don't know about it.
And I would also propose as a general theme that is a huge point, academia, and just you talk about organizational psychology and people in the lab just want to write white papers and get tenure and they don't want to necessarily commercialize. And I think that if you could, to your point on the academia, even big pharma, that would make this organization, MassBio, more powerful and more valuable if we were more efficient as an organization, as an industry organization, in mining academia and helping, bringing to the forefront, talking about sort of that dirty little secret about, people, they really don't want to commercialize things in this sort of tech transfer challenge. And so getting people engaged at MassBio and having say if MassBio wants to get big pharma to be a sponsor, that would be a value to MassBio to uniquely draw out academia and get them to participate. And I think, so that ties into marketing to them and your point about target marketing. I mean, so I would agree academia. So that, your point, and then the point about the organizational psychology, all sort of tie on that. But that would be a unique, mission, to
Aren't we Massachusetts Biotechnology and Educational Council then? But the word educational, what we're talking about, it's just in a way it's education high level.
Yeah.
Even that's a way, I mean, I agree with you, who we market into. The image, I agree totally that in academia, it's just kind of a barrier. Look like a professional organization, so the people in academia just don't want to associate themselves with a professional group. That's
Some and some don't know about it.
Oh yeah, but again, it's like a mentality. It's like by association, I am a member of the society, and we're a professional group, and I am I'm an academician.
So we're preparing data and an agenda for the next Forum Advisory Board meeting to go over sort of how we do it now, what some of our thoughts are moving forward. I would ask folks to think about, so Dahlia's point, someone asked her, should I go to Mass Bio? They're not asking us. They're not asking me, should I come to a Mass Bio event? They're asking you. So our success is going to be in your response to them. Do you send us an email and say, hey, can you add this person to your list? That happens maybe a handful of times. Or, do you forward them one of our emails and say there's a link at the bottom where you can sign up?
Or if it's an academic institution, let me know and I'll send our membership team over to that particular lab.
We've done 5 or 6 universities in the last few months because we recognize as this conversation was coming up that there's a real challenge. There's a lot of challenges with communicating to universities, but in letting them know that we exist and that they can access us. Yes.
There are members, but the people don't know.
Yeah, well, we've done 2 visits to Biogen. We just did
There's just
Sanofi.
thousands of people in that company, and they move from company to company. So we do our best to get in there, and literally grassroots. I sit in the cafeteria at the table saying, "You know that you're a member. I will wear a sandwich sign and educate people. But if there's a better way, tell me, and I'll go there and post. If there's even a bulletin board where you think people read it, tell me, because I'll bring flyers over there and stand there for 2 hours and educate people. I mean, we're willing to do whatever. We just need your feedback to direct this.
Susan, so I guess kind of one thing that I'm hearing is we need to kind of focus more on different kind of membership segments. Maybe one of the things that you guys can create that would be helpful for all of us is almost a recap of the events over the last 6 months, as well as what we have planned. You know what, maybe the name, the topic audience, or the kind of the target audience. So that way it's something that we can always refer to and then come back to say, hey, you know what, it doesn't look like we've hit this or this. But I guess for today, we're probably not going to solve it, but that might be an enabler.
Yep, we're
to help
working
us
on a
focus
sort
it
of
better.
spreadsheet so that we can say, some of these things that you all need to know. What's on the calendar, what's the time frame, what's the topic, who's involved, and then we'll add sort of a target audience column. As we're thinking about these programs, who are you identifying as the target so we can see?
I think the target is to a fair degree driven by the title of the event. What was a couple of months ago, Propel Careers had 3 consulting companies in to talk about jobs in the consulting business. Those 3 consulting companies, was it Deloitte, Halloran, I'm ranking on the third one. If those were talking about how they work with pharma companies, with their clients to help them, that title might as well have been, how can R&D use consulting groups to help them fill gaps? But the title was Propel Careers, and the title was basically jobs in the consulting industry. It cost $25 to get in. There were standing room only postdocs and students in here. They paid to get in. If we had, and as I said, all we needed to do was to change that title, and no one would have showed up. At least from that group, I should say.
Right, well, we do a monthly event with postdocs with Propel.
How to get a job. Everybody were expecting, how can I get a job with a consulting company? But the consulting companies really talked about what type of services they provide. So, change the title, the audience would have been completely different. The content exactly the same. So, I mean, we have to give some more thought, I think, into the titles we put to this, which is going to...
Can I suggest that we're starting to experience a little bit of scope creep here? About 20 minutes ago, we were talking about breaking up into groups and talk about national forums. If we could get everybody in different forum working groups to bring up all these kinds of ideas through their liaisons or to the co-chairs of the FAB. This is effectively the topic of a big part of the topic of our next meeting. So if we could get onto the working groups before we're overtime and everybody has to leave, that would probably be a good idea.
Thank you, Roger. But to Ewan's point, also to Ewan's point, when you develop your topic, you will be developing your target audience. So this is all part of that process. One last question.
Yeah, I have just a question about topics in general. Maybe you've already done this before, but is there a way that each group could survey their group members, or like HR could survey HR group members to see what topics they're interested in as a group? I don't know if you've done it specifically.
Some groups have. HR had, I think probably 9 months ago, we had some survey results, I think. And we can pull those out. Biostats has significant survey data. HR has survey data.
And we generally did survey data.
Right, and we did a broad committee survey.
Right before we relaunched this, we did, so we can get you that information as well. Thank you.
All right, so why don't we break up into groups? SEF, ESPN, and start talking about what you'd like to produce for forums.
That's good. We can really talk. I'm the only one here.
Yeah.
Should I get a hard discovery since we're all here?
All right, so I'll I thought that maybe we could visit with other groups.
We're all over the Twitter sphere, right? So we're on Angel Back. Let's get some live now. Yeah, so we're out of the gates. We're going once.
We're the ones, that's good, that makes it easier.
It does. John, Mark, so let's talk for a few minutes and then you can
get out of the way.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Everything.
Yes, and
I'm glad that we're able to. You know, Mark. Mid-size. They're all interested. I think we just need to figure out what
So do you want to sit here? Okay, that's good.
Aligning stakeholders.
I'm going to run the metric.
Post approval, you know, how you communicate with providers, how you communicate with payers, how you communicate
And I think, you know, there's probably some more esoteric.
We have some interesting folks issue there.
Different my sense in biotech in particular.
I think we've gone through a lot of colors before, just
safe, you know, these people trained, yada yada. I'm looking at things by lack of awareness and all of information. So what's happening? My predecessor did that.
Right.
Quickly, adding that kind of thing.
Maybe we can just grab one other guy, there's
no money in there for
it's going to be as easy as
I think one of the things you could do is you could have a set.
It's also made it scientific future science period. They know what to
That's just last year. What's changed? What's changed? So until last year. You know, the thing about it is maybe just reach out to a dozen CSOs and say, hey, you're thinking about putting together a panel that's going to do this, and it's going to be year after year. And we want to ask them questions. What are 3 questions you're thinking about for job roles right now today? Just give them the find out what's
maybe others as well, but I think those are
We were just kicking additional add-on content to the idea of the CFO. Just got in parallel, the CS. That community has so few exclusive to that. If you're limited to so
I don't
I was surprised that, there was that whole I was really great. I would say that, for example, the CFO thing, I saw that. And I said, so if you have a CSO and they're working as a team, they make all the things together. Well, you know, my boss is very she really wants to participate. I've gone to one event so far, but all this stuff going on here.
Relative, you're looking at these hot topics, what else do you think even if you have the best
and CTOs too, right?
separate form.
I see why that got
see, that's the appeal.
Like a round table.
You know you're not going to have scientists.
It's all kind of problem, but it's
really
What needs to be done overseas?
But you're saying it's limiting it to CSOs and CTOs types
Well, it's just an idea.
I mean, I think that would be a relatively easy way It's,
Yeah,
yeah.
Nick Turin. He's got like 5 friends. You're right, we end up just getting 5 minutes.
Unmet need there, right?
Yeah.
So
That's why this is, no, I'm sure that Ryan got
It's a big company, all of the small companies.
There are some, you find CA roundtables, you find CFO roundtables, but I don't know if it's CSO roundtables.
Or an HR consultant.
Well, none of them are my round. The CFO ones are done by a big accounting firm, the CEO ones are double paid.
case studies that is so
The founder story. We have
because most of the CSOs, small ultimately want to sell
strategy.
CSOs, farmers are getting different together to talk about it.
I mean, that's really powerful.
Also, these guys,
It's an emotional thing, but, you know, I think it's more strategic.
there was someone who was kind of very equity and not, they were the ones who could It could have been maybe the scientific founder, or maybe
Do you have any idea? I don't know any about the rings out to that as.
This is kind of what it looked like. And this time I had to kind of, because usually.
How many people do we want to have as Well, the idea is really to get conversations going with the audience, right? So if we have 5 speakers, they're going to spend all the time.
Very good presentation about. Sort of techniques rather than just, sitting there with slides.
Although that's a good topic, which actually.
So then I think what we need is some people
Very smart guy, so the topics, you know, you feel comfortable, you talk about it or not, but that one, you know, another person I was focusing on, Yes, exactly. Shut down. I'm thinking about it because I know that about their EHS.
option to do is way to look at here it's off-farm, so I think that's.
I'm not sure how to know this money in the market.
If you look at
So something slightly around stranded therapy. Sometimes maybe going in for one indication, got to a certain level, it didn't work, so it was abandoned. So
I think that's not really good, but as to which topic is to be waiting on,
that is my point.
Because CSOs and artists are not going to come here if they think they're going to look at my molecules.
That's what happens, people line up, CFO, 2.9 up front end. Yes, yes.
But then we have to limit that.
Yeah, and she kind of was baptized by fire, you know, when she still had a
talking about things that are important and ideas, not selling or trying to sell a product. If, you use that, you won't be invited back.
I will, yes.
So it's sort of a function, what it's like to
I don't.
So the other question is, do we want to make it invitation only? Because the more exclusive you make it here, the more useful it'll be.
Right.
And the other thing is that if it's truly something that CEOs,
people that work directly in industry,
out there, everybody just comes to consult out with these CEOs.
I'd rather, fantastic.
Good idea, but I think we need to think about things like
more powerful, I mean, anyone can go, like you was like, going off the agenda. I don't sit next to you, that was talking about that.
But now we have 15 minutes back in June. Oh, they are, right? Yeah, so we actually, I'll think about it in a few months.
Lisa was definitely there. He's part of the second day. They both came back to go up and see what's going on. And Marriott, wish they could do
What else is going on around here?
Like an exclusive event that CSOs and shut it down, don't worry about it. What's the first time that I got back coming?
Okay, then it's going to and then we also market to our peer group.
And, as we go, just like more on the
Plenty of fodder to discuss, it's just a matter of changing.
There's already 1 year in the can on the CFO one. How does the CFO one?
different things. Like, one sort of risk, one of, the like, technical,
We know we could do too, is we could market it to who we want to market it to well in advance, see who signs up for it. If we get people signing up, then maybe we have to do some more marketing and pass that. If we don't get 50 people signing up, all right, we'll just the other thing is, the question is, do we want to go out of that, to have that, here's what's happening this month, email goes out. Again, that goes back to a limited list, right? So the problem is, if we stick it in the calendar, even just without marketing, put it in the calendar, the only person who's going to dig through that calendar to find it is not a CSO.
We are actually just vendors going to professional-ish version to allow us to read an archive.
I'll say the
We also realize that
more pressure to create value sharing.
Leadership role in science.
These are what we
on that topic.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm not aware of that, but it's possible, you know.
I don't know anything about it other than I know Forest is actually last October.
I think it's, you know, we start looking at other impacts off the accident
Get together, because we could have put together more salient topics.
Some of our.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking. I think we can pretty much.
I figured you lost, that's a small.
Yeah.
Young entrepreneurs or people who want to learn how to start a company.
Careers. I mean, the way she participated in some of her futures in life.
To turn off the music, press 1.
Reconvene in a couple of minutes to share ideas.
Yeah, no, definitely will after we meet face to face.
Yeah, that's what it's a long time. Like a substage, they just have a hard time.
It did take forever. I came in right when
Great for guys, great guys. Great for guys. I know I'm from talks about
It really does, doesn't
I don't know whether Greg will do it.
No, I'll make
You're all welcome to continue to talk long past this meeting.
What we'd like to do now is ask you to share a couple of ideas that you come up with. So report out, people have ideas, forums that you'd like to bring forward?
If you want, I can report from the.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So on the Finance PE Committee, which the working group representative was John Riley from Tetra Genetics, along with John is Maud from Children's, Paul Thibodeau from Sanofi, Chris Ferrer from Ernst & Young, and myself, George, and Mike Donovan on the liaison. So it's 7 of us. The first message to John was that we don't want to get in the middle and screw things up, and by having the 3 of us on the advisory board, another layer of management is the last thing we need. So we're there just to shadow and advise and help, be there to add whatever value we can, and to make it as efficient as possible. There's 6 forums that we are going to be focusing on. Well, there are really 5, and then the 6th is a social event that would be wine and cheese and no content at all, just an event where we would just have a networking event. So May 9th is the CFO 2.0, the evolving role of the CFO, which is going to be focusing on creating shareholder value. We talked about the accounting and audit update, which I have strongly suggested be maintained because when we did restart the accounting update, whatever it was, 5 years ago or so, we made sure that all the existing accounting firms, members, were involved, which is sort of a theme that I would suggest is sort of brought to the forefront, which is value both for the members and also for the sponsors. The big, some of these folks write big checks, so you're allowed to. You can have E&Y and DEO and the other accounting groups involved in that panel. So the accounting update. Another, we're going to focus on creating an emerging markets event, which has a lot of BD and finance content. Another would be valuations, which would be methodology, goodwill, and that. And the other was.
So that would be a title for a forum, an additional forum. Yeah. So creating emerging markets.
One would be the impact of emerging markets on the biotech industry, whatever component. So there would be a lot of themes we could run with there. The other was valuations, which, once again, like emerging markets, I just got an email from Oscar Jazdowski, who's now with Silicon Valley Bank in China, and they have 60 people over there, and they're being a member here, or wanting to keep them as a member. That would be, we could pull in a lot of those types of people that could participate. So again, that sort of ongoing theme of these forums sort of tying into that idea. And 2.0 accounting update, emerging markets, valuations, and then transaction process. The buy side, sell side positioning for companies, and once again trying to pull in investment banks and other folks that would be members to participate in those panels. So that's it.
Great. DD? Drug discovery? What do y'all?
Do you want to talk about your idea?
Well, okay. So the Drug Discovery Committee really had the time to talk about 2 forums that we'd like to explore more. The first one being that we think that it's always good not to reinvent the wheel. And since we heard a great idea about the CFO forum, we think there should be one for CSOs. And an exclusive event, C-level science and technology professionals who really don't have too many places to commiserate with their fellow wizards. So it would be an evening session of CSO only, or that level of professional who would have probably a couple of topics, speakers, and but really it's really a networking event for folks of that caliber.
Did you say evening event?
Evening event, yep. Social event, probably with alcohol.
Probably, guaranteed.
So that would be something we would be looking for the network to come up with specific invitations to people to invite them to this event. We see where it goes. Could be an annual event the same way. It's really, that's a community that doesn't have a lot of events specifically for them. The second one was leveraging some of the things we heard from Dahlia and internally in the committee, is to a forum for exploring the translation of very interesting drug discovery technology from academia into startup companies. And that pathway, it would help to bridge the dialogue and membership and participation of academics into the mass bio community. And there's a lot of war stories and very interesting kinds of stories that we could have, maybe a two-person panel as a forum. And there's plenty of context that we can get out of the tech transfer community, because what do they do for a living is try to translate academic science into startup companies. So we thought that was a very firm place to have this topic. And then we ran out of time because we were thinking more about the details of these people who come up with those.
Yep.
That sound good, everybody on the committee? Yes.
Great. SEF?
Oh, you want me to talk? Okay.
It was your idea.
Well, one of the things that I always thought about is that for EHS to be more effective, we need to be more businesslike. And so we're talking about either coattailing or wedging along with some of the other forums on the business topics, and trying to present more the business side of EHS. So how we are value-added partners, as opposed to sometimes we're seen as an obstacle standing in the way, telling people, well, you can't do that because of this regulation or that regulation. I think it also is a skill set that a lot of the EHS practitioners around really don't have, the soft skills around business. We tend to do forums here and in other places that are focusing on the latest regulation that's coming down the pike, or the newest technology, or how you comply with the existing regulations in a different way. What I want to look at is how we can help the facilities folks and others who are in the C-level, executive level in companies around here understand that we can help them make their business more efficient by anticipating what regulatory impacts there might be, what type of hazards they might encounter with their work, and engineer those things out of it, and prepare the ground so that you don't have new equipment or new expansion coming, and all of a sudden we have to stop the project because some permit wasn't filed for, some control measure wasn't put in place, or we didn't anticipate a hazard and someone got injured, and then you're shut down and incurring costs there. So some of the ways we'd like to do that is, again, talking their language and getting maybe, for example, on the CFO 2.0, how much EHS content is in that seminar, and how much do they know about their responsibilities when it comes to environmental health and safety. But talking about things like metrics, and not just the typical, I like to call bleeding metrics, or the after-the-fact things, body count type of things. Sorry for being so graphic, but everybody's been talking about lost time accidents and your lost time rate and that sort of thing. But looking at the more leading type of metrics, completion rate on trainings, completion rate on inspections, and how timely are your corrective actions being done, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. I'm sure if we had a bunch of other really smart EHS people and some business people from the other side, from some finance folks and some operations folks in the room, they could help us look at other metrics that tell you how well you're doing in safety by avoiding those accidents.
So this might be an absolutely perfect thing to supplement some of the September.
Yeah, that's what we were both thinking, yes. We want to be more strategic, we want to be more integrated. We want to use the science. EHS is not just a cookbook type of exercise, but there's a lot of science involved and technology involved. So that's what we were thinking as well.
Really good stories.
And good stories.
Really good
stories. One of the
stories.
things I just thought about from the two presentations here, some of my own experience, if we can find a C-level executive convert, some CEO, CFO, or COO who's gotten religion around EHS and now is a good advocate for EHS. And I've seen that work in other industries I've worked in, and it's extremely effective. I mean, if anybody's been through any of the DuPont safety training, that's the way they do it. They don't use EHS people to train it. They get operations managers to train other operations managers, and they're more credible that way.
All right.
So I think I've taken enough time.
Great. HR?
Sure. So touching on a couple of other ideas that we heard, so we didn't get to sync up, but certainly equity comp is one of the topics that we discussed. Eric was very enthused by the idea. He said he has a contact at Towers Watson who's a comp expert that he would propose. And he also particularly liked the idea of looking at comp decisions you need to make as a private company that may go public, and kind of what planning needs to go into that. So that was one of them. And then touching on Denise's idea of organizational development, Eric also mentioned that he is, I think, hosting or planning an event around creating and maintaining a winning culture. So that's coming up, and it's something that he may be also interested in bringing here. And then Dahlia was discussing gender and looking at women in biotech and what motivates women in biotech, potentially looking at the gender age gap. So that's another idea, and I think we discussed having a planning meeting probably here at MassBio for the HR group, so we can kind of flesh this out, look at timelines, get to speakers, so we'll have an email for our group.
Anytime you want a conference room to get together, I mean, schedule regular meetings or just let us know. Okay. That sounds terrific. You?
So Svetlana and I were the only representatives from Entrepreneur University here today. So some of our thinking obviously was on the equity compensation, so maybe something around biotech startup equity compensation strategies focused towards founders who realize, or who are going to have to realize, they're going to have to give away equity to help build their team. Maybe it's the scientific folks that are actually, the audience could be the scientific folks who might be joining biotech teams, so they have a level set expectation in terms of what they could expect for compensation. And maybe some professors within universities who are looking to commercialize technologies could be part of that audience as well. We agree that, somebody from like a Towers Watson or an HR consulting firm might be good on that, as well as maybe a founder or a CEO, the first CEO of that company, who had to give out or kind of divvy up that equity. As well as potentially the attorney can kind of come in and give some, the legal side, the legal implications, as well as the different types, whether it's restricted stock, warrants, options, incentives, restricted stock, et cetera, et cetera. So we like that idea, and would like to kind of maybe bring it farther with you guys.
Okay. Yeah, we like that idea. We'd love to meet with you and talk about it. One of the things that came up with us is how to talk about equity in a company, like how to speak equity to your employees and describe it to them at different stages. So we found it to be like dominated our conversation. So we should meet when we meet, or individually, we should probably try to do our first meeting together.
Yeah, right, exactly. So at least on that particular topic.
Exactly, yeah.
Another topic that Lana and I talked about really was, it's maybe under quote unquote the hunt theme. It's really kind of finding and founding your next therapy. So, and there might be two parts to this. Is one, finding your next new therapy. So it's how an entrepreneur or a founder might work with tech transfer, or going out there and searching for new technologies that they might look to commercialize. What does that look like? And the second one under this particular hunt theme might be finding and resurrecting stranded therapy. So something that's stranded, maybe you find it for a new indication, but there's already data out there, so maybe it's something like that.
So repositioning, that's what, reposition, whatever therapy, even existing to another indication, that's a huge
repurposing.
Yeah.
Repositioning.
Yeah, that could be a whole topic in itself, reposition existing ones. So really building adjacent indications within your existing portfolio or building out your portfolio, but some of this is kind of finding those stranded therapies and bringing them forward, because that can oftentimes be very advantageous for the investors or the folks who are moving that forward. Something else that we thought about in terms of an annual event. I know John Riley had mentioned there's certain annual events. We know that a lot of our entrepreneurs are going to JP Morgan every year. They're pitching. You know what? Why not have an event to help those guys prepare for success, your JP Morgan primer? Maybe something in November of every year, or maybe it's October, to have folks who've been there before, who've done it, what worked well, what didn't work well, what should you be doing, how should you be planning for success?
So would it be something where people would make their pitch and then they could be critiqued, or?
I don't know. Completely wide open, but you know what? It's an annual primer. You know what? Preparing for success. I mean, maybe it's an example pitch. You can give feedback, but something around that idea.
Or just a number of people. Just here was a successful pitch. Here's how we did it.
Yeah,
stories.
What didn't work? Stories, what should you be thinking of? What should you be doing now? What do you need to do when you're there? How do you need to follow up? Maybe there's an example pitch. I'm not quite sure. So it's a good brainstorm, man. So those are a few of the things that we had spoke about without the rest of the representation from our team.
If I can ask, Mark, your first, the equity divvying up topic that you had there, will you include the Take the University scale? Because that's quite often, depending on the university, can be definitely an issue when you start a company.
Is this the equity compensation?
Right.
Or kind of finding a new therapy?
No, the equity.
Yeah.
Because when you start, it's not just a matter of divvying up the equity. I mean, one question too, especially when you take it out and try and go find money, is that sometimes the universities have quite a big chunk of that,
Yeah,
right?
but it's royalty or
Equity,
equity.
royalties, milestones.
Universities don't understand it yet. They're just bringing in their-
No, exactly. I mean, that's a really important in terms of getting, not just leaving out the equity, but sometimes, I mean, you have, when you add all the pieces, then the university wants, I mean, the investor looks at that and said, you know what? I'm gonna put my money so the university makes money. I ain't gonna touch that. So, I mean, it's gonna be a bit hard, I think, to get universities to, some of those could be potentially secrets, but it's definitely a,
So we're thinking that could be part of that topic where you're hunting for new therapies, because that will involve negotiating with tech transfer
Okay.
office
Yeah.
and then discussing the
Right.
licensing agreement and
Yeah,
what,
yeah.
both
Right.
sides want to see.
yeah. I mean, it's definitely.
It's important.
It is.
Because it could be a
Very.
deal breaker later on.
Yeah, how
Oh,
do you
yeah.
value it, you know, and how do you help them understand, you license that IP to us, you can't keep working on it.
Right, I mean, that's another example,
Yeah,
right?
one or the other.
So let's continue on sharing some ideas. Roger, FDD specific ideas that came up?
Yeah, Alex had to leave, so we only had time to talk about one topic. We basically carried on with what he had brought up regarding formulation changes for either repurposing or product extension concepts, and we talked with Konstantin and Wladek about it. I think what we have is the makings for something to fill one of those gaps that you had. We could conceivably start looking to save a date in July for this. What I'm going to do is follow up with a number of different groups that have some very clear inputs to have in here, and if we could get a panel put together with multiple different groups, formulation, the legal, business development, it could conceivably involve EU and drug discovery or something like that. So we'll see if we can get a panel of 3 or 4 people up and a good moderator, and we should be able to have a pretty informative topic very soon.
That'd be great. For July, well, I'll bring this up a little later once we're heard from. Yes, Dion?
First,
Yeah, marketing, communications,
Oh,
no
I'm
problem.
so sorry.
No, that's okay, because Rob Goldstein isn't here, but Dahlia and I just talked about, Marcom is poised to take the lead on the October session, Selling the Dream. We've got here partners, payers, and patients, a lot more stakeholders. I think we're gonna take the approach of how important it is to align the requisite stakeholders before you need to communicate to them, and then the strategy and tactical execution of communication and messaging platforms. So to do that, we can bring to the table, similar to the way Lauren Solano from Propel Careers does in her Futures in Life Science. She kind of groups them by different functional area and commercialization. You could have a market access perspective, a reimbursement, government affairs, marketing, patient advocacy, different perspectives on crisis communication or pre-approval communication to different stakeholders in the mix. We need to pull this a little tighter, but we've reached out to probably a half dozen folks across those different functional areas that I just mentioned. All have an interest in participating. We just need to tighten it up. But rest assured, we'll have something good to go well in advance of October.
Oh, I'm sure you will. And actually, all of these forums do have dates on the calendar. They just didn't come out on this particular handout. Terrific. All right. And then, of course,
I'm going to put George on the spot, but basically, when we were talking on the BD Finance Week, George came up with a great idea as far as, John Riley reinforced this, which was marketing communications, writing press releases, sort of communicating to the marketplace.
Have somebody come in who does the press releases, for a fee and stuff, and what's the good points and bad points, how to write an effective press release as opposed to writing the full page and stuff like that. That's really what if you need somebody who can do that, let me know.
That's great. Absolutely. Yeah.
Which would have a wide appeal. I mean, that kind of thing I think would draw in a lot of.
And the other part would be the website. I mean, you want your website to get people to look at it. You don't want to put the whole package up there. You want to write things that make it attractive for them to give you a call and start talking.
Right.
That's how you want to.
As early on as possible.
early on as possible.
Yeah, that's a great idea,
And this
thank
would
you.
be a perfect add-on, tie-in, because there's space in the September schedule.
We could tie in the mass, the whole conversation about just communicating.
Terrific. Right. Terrific. I'm sorry. Biostats? John?
Well, I'm the sole representative from the Biostats Data Management and Clinical Trials Group, but I'll do my best at kind of getting across some of the ideas we've had, and I do want to thank Kathy Call for being a very good participant just now with me, so we had some elaboration on some of these ideas. What we really need to think about, I think, is looking at data management, biostats, and clinical research in two different ways with respect to how the, respect to the Mass Bio. The first one is what can we do as a contributing factor for the startup companies, for some of the ideas that have been talked about. There's been a lot of discussion about, sources of information and intellectual property and funding and that kind of thing, but really, a company is not going to be able to have a success without going to the clinic, essentially. So what we would like to do is help participate in any way we can in terms of making sure that, the ideas and the necessities for getting to the clinic are brought forward to the appropriate people. A number of things, a number of topics along those lines would be having to do with the kinds of software that should be used, developing in-house infrastructure. I've personally worked with a lot of small startup companies that have had to do that, have had to struggle with, well, do they outsource everything, or do they start building up their own in-house infrastructure with respect to data management capabilities, biostats, and clinical research? So a number of topics I think that could come out of that. It could be, help augment some of the other discussions, in particular the science tactics for success could be part of that, or it could be a separate one. We also have some ideas about separate types of fora, which have to do with more specifics relative to biomarkers, how they're discovered, how they're used, adaptive trial designs, enrichment designs using biomarkers, rare diseases. I mean, there's a lot of interest now in the study of rare diseases, and it becomes a very intriguing problem in data management and biostatistics, primarily because of the rarity of the diseases, but also how do you actually diagnose, identify, and evaluate, how do you study a rare disease? So, there's a lot of different ones along those lines, all basically geared towards how do you get to and through the clinic. So I don't have very specific topics for specific dates or anything like that, but I think we'll come up with those, again, in collaboration with my co-chair. But I did want to, at least get across some of the concepts that I think are important when it comes to getting a drug through the clinical research process.
I mean, contributing to the September 26th forum, Science Tactics, I think this is an essential element in that, and how to get to and through the clinic. There's another forum that might follow on to that as well. Terrific. Have we talked to everybody? I guess we have. Well, this is very productive. So, next steps. Take your ideas, gel them together, think about target audience, speakers, and create discrete forum ideas. Contact me. We'll see if we can get them on the calendar. Plan meetings, if you can, we're available. If you plan meetings, either regular meetings or ad hoc, you can do them right here in person. We'll have conference rooms for you. So keep in mind, though, that this is the following timeline. This seems to work best for trying to do this at least 10 weeks out.
Susan, can you send us that just so that we have it readily?
Yes, I'll send all of this again. This is when you're going to select a date, really develop the content, and start reaching out to speakers to find your target audience and for marketing. This is when we'll have a planning call, and I'll get this on the Mass Bio calendar. No less than 6 weeks out, you want to finalize description and format. You're going to have panelists, or you're going to have speakers, whatever you need for that. We get the event in the Mass Bio calendar complete. And this is when the first of our new monthly announcements goes out. Again, another planning call with me. And then 4 weeks out, marketing announcements start going out in our Friday events update email. Again, planning calls with me as needed, but you all will be working independently to put this all together. And then 1 to 2 weeks out, confirm all forum details. We've got our speakers all set up, whether you're going to have slides or not. The logistics, which of course I'll take care of.
So we're going to propose the next meeting date for you to consider as Tuesday, June 4th. We think getting everyone together is actually really helpful. We will by then have met with the Forum Advisory Board and can bring back some information around marketing and strategies and continue to talk about that. We'll obviously update on how far we've come from this meeting and then continue to brainstorm moving forward. We would try and keep it on Thursday, but Thursday, June 6th is our annual job shadow day, and all of our staff goes out to member companies to help high school students shadow as scientists. So if Tuesday, June 4th is, we'll send you some follow-up information, 8 to 10. There's always an option to call in. Obviously, you don't get the same interaction, but to listen to what other folks are doing. And can I just ask, how many people use and like using Dropbox? I'm just thinking, we're talking about a lot of documents that you seem to want and need continuous access to, either historical survey data or an updated spreadsheet. If we share a Dropbox link that people know where to find this stuff, and for anybody who doesn't use it, I'm happy to kind of explore how to use it.
Dropbox is a very good idea. And I mean, it's free, so if somebody is using it, it doesn't cost any to sign up. Well, it's free up to 2 gig, I guess.
So, all right, so we'll probably start using that as a tool to share some of these documents so your emails don't
Plus
crash.
Lists of all of your contact information, a calendar, and whatever else you need to keep it. All right. This is great. I'll be sending a recap, and thank you all so much for your time.
Give it to my assistant, so it might take a few days turnaround time.
No problem.
So if it does take time, I haven't forgotten.
Yeah, okay. Yes, no, that makes sense.
That's right.
Yeah, no, it's good. Yeah, and one thing I'll tell you that I had a call yesterday. I happened to be able to grab John.
Yes, yes. The first Friday? Yes, are you talking? No, that's what I wanted to talk to Martha. No, it's the one that you actually is the workers. I'm not sponsored. I was
and I just said that trade. I don't. And I would be paid to do it. I mean, I'd go out and just tell these people to go screw, just give them a check. Kind of, you know.
We've had a number of meetings with them.
It's just crazy because it's like, listen, you have to think about it. People like that, people like the venture companies, all these people around here. So, I mean, like, let's say Third Rock Ventures, if they're not a member, right? I don't know if they are or not. But, you know, it's like Mark Levin. What are you kidding? You know, millennium. You know, it's like you should just pay for the rest of your life. And it should just be, you know, I mean, just kind of, somehow do you wrap that value proposition? You know, so you have to work on that. But I said that, you know, and that's what I was saying about this emerging markets. Having coincidentally heard from Oscar Jasnowski, so how do you create some sort of bridge between that? Like, I think you could go back to someone like Silicon Valley Bank and say, listen, this is the deal, we understand it. It's kind of like what happened with Ernst & Young, right? We pulled them back and then we gave them the CFO 2.0, you know, to drive it, which immediately added, because these guys do have to go back and support the check.
Right.
You know, so how do we help you guys? How does these working groups and the Forum Advisory Board help you kind of brainstorm on tying that into the revenue model here? So
yeah, but it's a slippery slope because we can't provide that for every member, and if we're in the if we get in the habit of justifying membership by giving away events,
well, not every year. I mean, like in the case of 2.0, we would rotate through the accounting firms. We're not going to get it every year.
Right.
So yeah, it is, you know, it's a delicate subject, right?
Yeah, and
But-
we should actually probably add that to an agenda.
What is that?
Moving forward, that, I mean, it's sort of our policy, we want the best speakers, but wherever possible, we want members.
Right.
You know, and we want to have diversity across companies represented.
And it's also, it's not just justifying membership, but it's also, you want their value. If like Silicon Valley Bank is overdoing in China, it's a win for Mass Bio to have them engaged in sharing
In some
that.
cases,
So I'm with you. I'm just saying, whatever. I'll just tell you, I know that's not shouldn't be policy, but that is making Ernst & Young feel much happier. I think that they'll easily write the check next year now because of that. So
yeah, we'll see.
You can't do. But I just think
I mean,
if this group can have that thought in mind, it's where it's all, and also for the benefit of the working groups.
Yeah.
It makes it easy.
Yeah.
If you know that you're planning something and you already know who you're going to target for the speakers.
Yeah. And it should we should always focus
that.
on member value and
Yeah.
best stories, but we encourage interaction with members, case studies with members, examples by members, because
That's the value.
Yeah, like in the case of E&Y, they do that, and any one of these guys that do that, PwC, that do these annual reports, the members here should know that they're, we should make sure that they get a copy of that. I was talking, how do you create, throughout the year, instead of waiting to the point of having to ask someone to check, how do you proactively,
JLL and their quarterly reports, we now have a way that they copy us and we post them, and there's sort of a.
how do you preemptively push that value out on a regular basis so it's like they just write the check? It is sort of a, so, and I think that you've got a lot of people that are reaching out to the world at large.
Yeah.
But that was good, it's getting there, sort of.
I said, it's not pretty, it's not neat.